Thank you for waking up with Be Sweet, y'all, where we come together to learn how to be sweet to ourselves and to others so we can grow in mind, body, and spirit. You know, I'm working on changing up what we say in the beginning. Maybe I should work that out before I get here, but maybe I'll just work it out with y'all. I think that's okay. So y'all, look at my cute coffee cup. So I'm excited to come to you today for a little pop-up podcast. I'm thinking about a few things. This is about finishing something I started. Oh my goodness gracious. Oh my goodness gracious. It feels so good. So good. I cannot wait to move on to the next thing. If I'd known it would feel so good, I wouldn't have procrastinated for 9 years. You heard me. 9 years. At least 9 years. Maybe longer. I don't know. Way longer than that. But isn't this the most adorable coffee cup? For those of you that are on YouTube, you can see it, but those on the other places can't see it. But it's an adorable coffee cup that is designed after my book cover. Yes, you heard me. My book cover that Katie Hughes did, amazing artist. And doing these precious coffee cups, because you know how I love coffee. So I'm super excited about these. And you can buy them too from me at the office, or they'll be on my online store, which I'm not sure how to do all that yet, but we'll talk about that later. So a couple things I want to talk to you about today. First, I'm going to start with the fact that I did finish my book, and it went, I think you call it this, it went to press last night. So Dennis sent it off and we'll get the copies. So I finished my book. Joy is my favorite color. It's 100 days of affirmations. There's different categories, and they're things that you don't have to start at the beginning if you don't want to. You can just pop around and get whatever you want, because there is a table of contents where you can find what you're struggling with or what you want, whether it's health, whether it's getting back to God, getting back to being the person who you were created to be. I think all of us struggle with that, or I do anyway. I don't know about y'all. I wanted to do this. Now, I've always wanted to write, and I do write, but I've always wanted to publish a book because books made me feel so good. I've talked about this before, and I need to say it again so people can get the gist of why it's so important to me. When I was 10 years old, I was terrified sitting in my bedroom. I did have a darling bedroom, by the way. It was pink. My family was into interior design and decorating and things like that. Imagine that. And my aunts made bedspreads and draperies and stuff. So I always had a darling bedroom. It was pink, and it was actually a tone of pinks and reds. It was really lovely. But I was terrified. I was 10 years old. I'd sit on that bed, and I was scared about what was around me with my alcoholic home, and it was unsure. And I started writing affirmations, and I read all kinds of good literature and books. I still do that today. I read every single day. I still do that. And I started writing affirmations, and they started becoming, I knew that words were important. I knew that if I was going to become somebody, if I was going to get through trials, and I don't know what language I had around this, but it's something I knew. I knew that it was important. And so it's something that's always been with me my whole life. And it's taken me through so many dark times. So I wrote my first book of affirmations so that you could do that too. So you could just turn the page and you could say this affirmation to yourself. You could make it become yours. You could write about it. You could speak about it, and it could become part of you. And I always wanted to be an author because I would read books and I would just have these aha moments, and I would just feel so much better after I read it. I thought, imagine if I could do that for somebody. Just imagine if. And it's no longer an imagine if. I did it. I procrastinated 9 years out of fear, out of afraid that it wouldn't be good enough, out of fear that nobody wants to see. Everything stopped me, and I put everything in front of it. I used the excuse I was too busy. I used the excuse that I had to raise my kids, which I do. I used the excuse that I had to make a living, which I do. But guess what? I did other things, but I know that it wasn't the time constraints. I know it wasn't all those other things that kept me stuck. I was afraid. Y'all, and this is so cool. Let me talk for just a minute about some people that make this possible real quick. Pepsi. I love cherry Pepsi. It's like diet cherry Pepsi. And I don't drink sodas all the time, y'all. I do drink Propel every day, which is also a Buffalo Rock Pepsi product, by the way, because I drink a lot of water since I started losing weight. But I love Buffalo Rock Pepsi. They're one of my main sponsors. Holiday Beach Mechanical, who is at my house all the dang time, y'all. I mean, my plumbing, my electrical, my air conditioning. When you have a house, you get to know those people up close and personal. And Team Patriot is a new sponsor. He's helping me put my house back together from the water damage. Does home inspections, all these things. So y'all, I call him my rent-a-husband because I don't have a husband right now. Any candidates? Just kidding. Promise. Just kidding. I have a rent-a-husband. I am good. Let's talk about what I heard this morning. And I'm on, y'all, it was so cool. So if you ever heard of Stephen Pressfield, The War of Art, y'all, I did not know this. I don't know why I didn't know this, but Stephen Pressfield did not even really become popular or start really getting out there until he was in his 50s. Well, I'm an author who's just getting started at 67. Actually, I got started a long time ago, but I didn't come into my own until now. I can now say I am an author. I can now say that I am an author. And I've got a little affirmation that we're going to do at the end of this podcast today that I wrote about that. But Stephen Pressfield talks about that he had so much resistance, and the resistance stopped him. But the more resistance you have to something, the more you need to do it. You know, and this is what I wrote down. This is so cool. So let me look at this. So if you're fighting resistance to something that you know that you need to do, like I have, and I am in the middle of it right now, y'all, because I got some things that I want to do and things that I feel that I am called to do, and I am stopping. I am letting fear stop me. I'm letting resistance stop me. I'm letting all the what ifs on the wrong side of the track stop me. But guess what? That is telling me I really need to do it. So this is what he said. He said, tiny ideas will give you tiny voices of resistance, but big ideas will give you big voices of doubt and resistance. I'm going to say that again. So if you have a tiny nudge, a tiny idea, you're probably going to hear tiny voices of resistance. If you have a big idea, you're going to hear big voices of doubt and resistance. The more doubt, the more I love this. I'm so excited. Y'all, I'm just about to bust out of my seams. And I've heard it before, but it hasn't really resonated until now because I'm living it right now. I'm living in the middle of it. So the more self-doubt you have, I'm about to preach, y'all, the more you need to do it. There is something out, there's forces in this earth, and I'm not getting all woo-woo with you because there's energy out there in this world. There is energy. And there's energy that propels us forward, and there's energy that stops us. And the energy that stops us, I think, is always going to be there. So we've got to push past that resistance. And so if you have a lot of self-doubt, which I do right now, I have a bunch of self-doubt. So these people that tell you that you got to get rid of your self-doubt, that it's going to go away, I don't know. I still have it. It is so prevalent in me right now, y'all. The self-doubt, the noise that says, I don't need to do it. The noise is, what if they don't like it? It's there. But guess what I did? I did it anyway. I did it anyway. So, y'all, did y'all know, and I think you probably all know this, but Stephen Pressfield, who did not even start till he was in his 50s. I mean, he started, but he didn't really become popular or become a thing until he was in his 50s, is the one that wrote The Legends of Acrobats. And he said that he wrote at least 20-something other things before he wrote that. And I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to miss this. And he said that, okay, the more resistance you feel, the more you need to do it. Okay, I want you to hear that message right now. The more resistance you feel, the more you need to do it. Okay. And he said also, and this is so true about what happened to me in the book writing process and actually getting the book published, is once you start, there's magic in it. I think that for me, I want to have the whole book written out. I want to have the whole thing done before I do it. And y'all, that's just not real life. I think we do it in the process of doing it. We become it in the process of doing it. We cannot wait till we have it all figured out to start. We can't. We just start. And in the starting, we figure it out. And in the starting, I think sometimes we figure out, you know what? Maybe this isn't my path. But then we also figure out what is our path. But we can only figure it out by doing it. Please don't wait till you have it all figured out. I promise you, if I had done that, I wouldn't have a company right now. I started Beachy Beach Real Estate when I was 50 years old, y'all. I'm 67 now. And now I'm 67. It's not starting my writing career, but blossoming into my writing career. Actually publishing, actually doing the thing, actually getting out there and speaking, whether I'm terrified of speaking, y'all. And people tell me all the time, you shouldn't say that, Karen. You shouldn't say you're terrified. You don't need to speak that word. Well, I do tell myself a lot of positive affirmations, and I do say that I can do it anyway. Frightened, scared, unsure, I do it anyway. That's my affirmation. But I'm going to do it anyway. But I am always scared. And people find that so hard to believe. I got called to speak at something, one thing, I think in August, another thing, I think in September. And I was honest with the girl. And I said, thank you for asking me, but I'm always afraid to do this. But I know I need to do this, or I know I want to do this. I was built for this, but I'm still scared. Crazy lives we have. So this is what Stephen Pressfield said about himself, and I'm hoping that these stories will help you push through your resistance, your fear, your self-doubt, and do it anyway. Do it anyway. Stephen Pressfield said that his pattern he would get 99% through with something, 99% through, and then he would just blow it. Just blow it. He said, I would act out, or I'd just blow it, or I would just stop. So, and he said his life kind of blew up. I think his marriage kind of fell apart too, and all kinds of things were blowing up. But he finally said to himself, I'm just going to throw myself all into a project. I'm just going to throw myself all in. So he worked on something for 2 years. And he just made that his job, was just writing the thing. And he said because he had an overwhelming tendency to quit before something was finished, he made himself a promise that he would not quit it. So you know what happened? He wrote this thing for 2 years, never published it. And no one even knew about it. No one got to read it. No one. But he knew it, that he had finished it. He had finished that thing. And he said by finishing that thing he started, that he never quit anything again. It never got published. Nobody ever knew about it, but he never quit again. He followed things through. He followed his writing through. And I'm so excited that I finally did this thing. I followed it through. I got the beautiful art. The art is beautiful, y'all. The art is just exquisite. It's so exquisite. And I love it. It's just a work of art. It's a beautiful work of art. And then it's all done. And it'll be in my hands probably about July the 11th. You can pre-order it if you want to. By pre-ordering, that means you can Venmo me at my business account, and I will write it down and reserve you those copies. I ordered 100 copies to start with. I will be launching it on July the 24th at the Women's Symposium. And the reason I'm doing it there is because for, 15 years now, maybe, I have been standing up in front of those women and reciting an affirmation for the women at the symposium. So I thought it was only fitting that I launched my book there. So isn't that cool? Isn't that fun? So excited about that. So what else was I thinking about today? Okay. Oh, this is what he said too. And this is what I want you to cling to. So by doing the thing that he had resisted, by going ahead and writing it, finishing his project, It was a breakthrough. And he said, no one knew, but I knew. And there's nothing like actually doing it. You can talk about doing it. You can talk about it all day long. You can plan about doing it all day long, but there's magic in doing it. There's magic in doing it. Something that I've been resisting, that I've been called to do and been, here again, terrified to do, afraid I wouldn't know how to do it, embarrassed to do it. I want to do a workshop. I want to do a workshop, and I want to do a workshop about mindset and those type of things. And I'm not quite sure what I want the topic to be. Maybe it's about resistance. Maybe it's about not giving in to resistance, just working through yourself down. I don't know. But I want to do a workshop at Beachy Beach and charge for it and have women come, and I teach women and we learn and grow together. So y'all call me out on it. Tell me, Karen, when's that workshop? Kind of like Lindy Bryan did about my book. He would always say to me, when's that book going to come out? When's that book coming out? I think he's been saying that about 9 years, and it's finally coming out. So isn't that fun? That's exciting. So, I have a couple of other things to talk to you about today. I want to talk about a book that I was reading called Mr. Aweeda's Guide to Gardening. Now, while the book was it was an okay book. I liked it, but it did knock my socks off. But there were parts of it that really spoke to me. There's a lady in the book, and that was one of the reasons I didn't like it, and I'll tell that to you in a minute. There was a lady in the book that kind of looked at the people across the street and had this beautiful yard, but she just never was a gardener. And she wanted a pretty yard, but she didn't want it enough to do anything about it. And I know a lot of us are like that, right? We want something, but we don't want it enough to do something about it. And sometimes we just have to get somebody else to do it, right? It's not our thing to do, right? So Mr. Aweeda was working in the garden across the street, and she saw the magic that he was performing over there. She ended up meeting Mr. Aweeda, getting him to work in her garden. She started doing all the things. But Mr. Aweeda told her one day he had tried to let her do some plants on her own, and she, like me sometimes, doesn't want to prune things. You see things getting spindly and they're not really looking nice. And what my tendency to do was just go buy another plant. Y'all, I'm telling you, I used to just throw out the plant, start another one. That's my method. And I'm trying to learn not to do that. I'm trying to learn to salvage something if it can be salvaged. There's a time to throw something away and a time to keep it. And if it can be salvaged, sometimes, like Mr. Aweeda said, severe pruning is sometimes all that will work. That's my life. That is absolutely my life. Sometimes there is severe pruning that's needed. I have to lop off all the dead parts. I can't keep them. I think that if I keep the dead parts of my life, the parts of my life that I know do not work, that aren't meant for me, that I'm just holding on to because it's expected of me, because I've always done it. It's what other people do. It's what is expected of me at age 67. It's what's expected of me as a woman, as a person who lives in the South, as a Christian. If I am holding on to things that are no longer life-giving and trying for my plant to grow without severe pruning, I just don't think it's going to work. I pretty much know it's not going to work because I've tried it. I've tried it a lot, and I still try it in certain instances. And somehow, hearing that story again this morning about Stephen Pressfield and the war of art and the resistance and the fact that I know that the resistance, the self-doubt, and all those things that are keeping me from doing it, maybe those are the very things that need to propel me to do it. Maybe, just maybe, I need to get those pruning shears out and lop it down. Just cut it all the way back. Just cut it all the way back. so the new growth can form. And that's what I got out of that book. That was the most important thing I got out of that book. I wrote a affirmation this morning called The Will of Nature. And it ties into all of this because I think that all of us, every single one of us, are designed and created on purpose with a purpose. And that purpose is to fulfill who we are inside uniquely, creatively, authentically, but it doesn't stop there. So that we can take that and bring it to the world. We can help the world, help that other person become who they were uniquely created to be. And if we don't do that, then we don't get to give into the will of nature. And if you notice, the birds, they're just birds. The bees, they are bees. The alligators are alligators. They don't try to be a bird. They don't try to be a bee. They are who they were created to be. And when they go with the will of nature, the will of God, the will of our creation, we end up doing what we're put here to do. That doesn't mean we don't have resistance. That doesn't mean we don't have naysayers. That doesn't mean we're not going to fall flat on our faces at times. But it does mean the more we give into the will of nature, the will of God, the beautiful will and creative energy of God, the better we'll be, the happier we'll be in this world. The better we'll be sweet to ourselves and others, So I don't know. I hope some of that made sense today for y'all. It's so funny when I get here in the morning sometimes and I do this, I have just an idea in my head and I just talk to you. And sometimes I go in tangents that I didn't mean to go on, but I try to listen to that will of nature, that will of God. And I try to know that that's why I do live. That's why I do all my podcasts, which are individual, are always live. Because I don't want to be bound by people pleasing. I don't want to be bound by fear of getting it just right. I want to just say what is on my heart, mind, and spirit and let it just come forth and let it be maybe the thing that you need to hear and not judging what I need to say. Just let it come forth, So I need to thank a few more people before we go on and do the affirmation part and everything. You're seeing me seriously. Isn't this shirt cute, y'all? Is it darling? It reminds me of my mama, Barbara Key, because Barbara Key loved her some color. And guess what? She created a daughter who loves color and lots of it. Lots of unexpected color. So this top is from Amore Boutique, one of my sweet, precious sponsors. They're located on 30A. The earrings are by my sweet friend and artist of my book cover, Katie Hughes. And you can get these at Gypsy Willow, who's one of my precious sponsors. She's located over in St. Andrews. I want to also thank today, y'all, this is so exciting. Guess what happened? So Bay Tax is a company, Brian Yormet with Bay Tax. They do what they call ERC, where you go and get money, tax money, credit. If you during disasters, you keep everybody employed, which we did. It's taken a while to get it, but I'm gradually getting money because they're rewarding me for keeping all my people. Oh, isn't that exciting? So I'm getting a check soon. And of course, you guess what it did? It went in the front door and right out the back door. But boy, I was grateful for that check. I was grateful that I had a check to go in the front door and right out the back door. But Brian Yormat with Bay Tax helped me do that. He also did cost segregation. So if you need tax strategies, please call them. And my two favorite places to eat. If you know me, you know it. Something's cooking. Y'all, if you haven't had that bread, I don't know what you're waiting on. It is fabulous. And Ferrucci's downtown also, they are amazing. They're the past owners of Los Sanditos. So they still make those great steaks and everything that they made there. Just wonderful, wonderful. So please go to these people and thank them and just love on them. I don't mention every single sponsor, every single pop-up. So those are the ones I'm going to give a shout out today. And you see my minutes and miles stuff all the time. And I know you see my shore house happy. So please go enjoy that and thank those people for making this podcast possible. So I think what I'm going to do now is I'm going to read the affirmation that I feel called to read today. And this is called The Will of Nature. And I'm hoping I can read my own writing. That's what I'm hoping of. Okay. The Will of Nature. I want to be like nature, living fully into the will of God, bending towards the sun, renewed after a rain, building back after a storm, knowing that every season of my life brings new growth, new ways to thrive, dropping old leaves that have no nourishment or growth potential. I make way for new life, new hope, a new day, and a more authentic and delighted me. Y'all, guess what happens? When you become a more authentic and delighted you with new growth, nourishing your soul, then you're able to nourish the souls of others. Now, y'all, that's something worth doing. That is something worth doing. Y'all, I just thank you from the bottom of my heart that you allow me to come into your heart, into your spirit, into your homes. I'm so thankful for those of you who have supported me all these years with this podcast. All of you who are supporting me as I change the name of this podcast to Be Sweet, y'all. It's been a great, great pivot. I want to remind you, if you're feeling resistance, if you're feeling self-doubt, that is your signal to keep on going. Be sweet, y'all. Bye.